This girl offers her body for money. Kazuya gets dumped by his girlfriend after just a month of dating. That night, he finds she also blocked him on social media, and as he gets frustrated, he happens to see Rent a Girlfriend app and decides to try it. The next day, he meets Chizuru, his rental girlfriend, and is surprised she is actually beautiful. They go on his proposed date, visiting the aquarium, and she is fascinated by the fish. At the end of their date, she holds his hand, which makes him feel special. That night, he reads reviews from other people and learns that Chizuru is doing that with everyone, and he gets angry and leaves a bad review stating that she doesn't even know common fish names. He decides to go out again with her to give her a piece of his mind. The following day, he meets again with Chizuru, but as he finds her too cute, he can't say anything. The whole day, Kazuya acts kind of cold, saying they are total strangers. They go again to the aquarium, where Chizuru starts talking about fish. Kazuya realizes she prepared for the date and is reminded of his ex-girlfriend, making him yell at Chizuru. She drags him somewhere private, where she asks him if he is an idiot, as he requested a rental girlfriend and agreed with the user agreement. Chizuru complains that he left her a 1-star review, which she had never received before, which brought down her rating. She even brought a book about fish to prepare for this date, but guesses she will get another 1 star. Kazuya's phone then rings, informing him that his grandma collapsed. He leaves towards the hospital, and Chizuru decides to follow as he still has time left with her. At the hospital, his grandmother Nagomi states that she is fine. She sees a girl with Kazuya, and Harumi, Kazuya's mother, explains she brought her in as she was with Kazuya, but she and his father really doubt she is his girlfriend. Feeling pressured and mocked, Kazuya states that Chizuru is his girlfriend, as she introduces herself as such. Nagomi gets excited and wants to leave the hospital to make a party for the occasion, but Kazuya's parents stop her. His parents then decide to return to the shop. Nagomi asks Chizuru if she had sex with Kazuya, and Chizuru explains that since Kazuya is the oldest son in their family, they figured they will need Nagomi's permission first. Hearing that Nagomi grants them the permission and decides to go call her friends to introduce them to Kazuya's girlfriend. Kazuya explains that Nagomi had been hospitalized a few times and had made friends with other regular patients. Hearing that, Chizuru gets shocked and states that her grandmother is also a patient in the hospital, but she doesn't know about her job. They manage to hide in the next room, under the sheets in the bed, and manage to fool Nagomi that they left. Before they manage to leave the room, Chizuru's grandmother Sayuri sees them. Not wanting to trouble Chizuru, Kazuya decides to try to reveal that he doesn't have a girlfriend, but Chizuru continues the act. Nagomi and Sayuri are happy that their grandchildren are together and look forward to when they will marry each other. Later, Chizuru tells Kazuya that they need to tell them they broke up. Kazuya explains how important his grandmother is to him and that he wants to introduce her to a real girlfriend before she passes away. He comments he used to have one, but she refused to meet her and then dumped him. Kazuya later leaves a 5-star review on Chizuru and decides to not call her anymore. He decides to continue with his campus life. However, on the next day, he and Chizuru meet unexpectedly at school. Kazuya and Chizuru meet at college. However, both pretend to not know each other. Later, Chizuru drags Kazuya to a room, telling him to not tell anyone about her job and to never rent her again. However, to their surprise, they live door by door in the same apartment complex. Nagomi calls Kazuya, informing him that she will be visiting him, and she wants Chizuru to also come. Kazuya begs Chizuru to pretend to be his girlfriend as his grandmother is coming, but she refuses. Nagomi arrives and they start waiting for Chizuru. Kazuya goes out to call her, and while pretending to talk with her on the phone, he goes to the next door and begs her again, but Chizuru still refuses. Kazuya decides to tell the truth. However, Nagomi had already figured he got dumped. Nagomi tells him that at some point, she started to believe he will never get a girl like him, but Chizuru showed her a beautiful dream, so she can never hate her. Chizuru overheard their conversation from the window and decides to act as his girlfriend. She comes apologizing for being late, but stating she wanted to prepare food. Nagomi gets happy to see her. Later, as she leaves, she tells Kazuya next Wednesday when he comes to visit her, to bring Chizuru with him. Kazuya manages to convince Chizuru to be his girlfriend for 1 hour each Wednesday, but she set rules that he never talks to her at college or contact her outside the app. The next day, Kazuya runs into his ex, Mami, and is reminded of how beautiful she is. Later, Chizuru calls him, and they go to the hospital. After their visit, Kazuya is seen by Yoshiaki and Shun, who thinks that Chizuru wants to sign Kazuya into some sect and take all of his his money, but he ends up stating that she is his girlfriend. They can't believe he is with such a beautiful woman, but accept it as they hear they haven't had sex yet. They invite him to come drinking with them, and Kazuya ends up accepting. At the place, Kazuya is surprised to see his ex-Mami there, and Yoshiaki apologizes as he didn't know she would be here. Kazuya feels awkward and wants to leave, but he can't leave Chizuru alone. After he returns from the toilet, he sees Mami talking with Chizuru. Mami then starts explaining how troublesome Kazuya's libido is, as once they held hands and kissed, he always wanted them to do that. How he couldn't stand up from where they were sitting after she wore a miniskirt. Seeing Kazuya not saying anything, Chizuru stands up for him, telling her to not badmouth him, and that it's not okay to talk about private things for their ex. As they argue, Kazuya states that's just the way he is, and Chizuru decides to leave. After the party, Kazuya talks to himself, knowing that Chizuru stood up for him as he couldn't, but in the end, she is just a rental girlfriend. Mami ends up following Kazuya and thanks him for standing up for her, and states that she failed as a girlfriend. She comments she didn't know Kazuya had such a manly side and invites him to her place. Mami tells Kazuya that she lied about having a boyfriend. She receives a message from her brother and realizes he is home with his friends, so she tells Kazuya that they can't go there. Kazuya sees this as an opportunity as she invites him and decides to invite her to his place. Mami gets surprised and Kazuya panics, starting to explain it's nothing creepy and that she is just too sexy. Mami then starts patting his head and Kazuya starts to feel like trash for jumping on conclusions and not standing for Chizuru. Mami starts badmouthing Chizuru, thinking she has some loose screws as she was quiet all night and then had such an outburst. Kazuya states that Chizuru isn't like that, and while he still likes Mami, he can't let her badmouth her. Kazuya goes to Chizuru's apartment wanting to apologize, but then sees her coming home. He apologizes for how pathetic he is, but he states it fine, as he is just his rental girlfriend. Chizuru is still fine with them continuing like this, and that makes Kazuya happy. Kazuya's group decides to go to the beach, and Kazuya is surprised that Mami wanted him to come too, and isn't mad at him. They tell him to invite Chizuru too, but he explains it was too sudden, so he couldn't get her to come. Secretly, Mami is angry that Kazuya is dating someone in less than a month after they broke up, and decides to try and make Chizuru and Kazuya break up. She goes and apologizes to Kazuya for her behavior the other day, and comments how many good memories they had for the month they were together. They even decided that their kid will be called Maya, but now Maya will never be born. Kazuya decides to tell her the truth about Chizuru, but then sees other people from their college, and apparently Chizuru and her friends also decided to take a post-exam break at the beach. As she is in her normal personality, no one realizes she is Chizuru Mizuhara. As the other group leaves, Kazuya decides to not reveal it, as he will be a laughing stock for his friends. He ends up being the one that needs to go buy things from the store, and as he goes, he visits the bathroom to clear his mind. To his surprise, Chizuru attempts to enter, and seeing her, he drags her in. As she confirms that they are just client and rental girlfriend, he explains that he may have a chance to get back with Mami and didn't want Chizuru to be offended. That annoys Chizuru, who starts yelling at him, telling him he is just a client, but then they hear Mami outside wondering if that's Kazuya. He goes out, trying to say that he is alone, but Mami realizes he lies. As she attempts to open, Chizuru comes out pretending to be Mizuhara. Kazuya's friends also come and see Chizuru, and Kazuya explains that she is from his region and got some free time and decided to visit him at the beach. Mami apologizes to Chizuru for the other day, but secretly she gets even more frustrated with her being there. The group return to the beach, and Kazuya goes into the sea, while Chizuru stays on the beach. Mami calls Kazuya behind some rocks, explaining that she lost her bracelet, and asking him to help her search for it. However, she ends up kissing him. Kazuya recalls how he met Mami and confessed to her, the time they spent until their first kiss. At present, after kissing Kazuya, Mami apologizes, stating she couldn't control herself. She tells him to act normal in front of others, and they return to the group. However, Kazuya can't stop thinking about it. Nagomi calls him to inform him that she is getting discharged and will be able to see Chizuru anytime she wants. The group starts asking about where Chizuru lives, and unable to tell, Kazuya reveals that they talked about breaking up. Yoshiaki gets angry and punches Kazuya, guessing Chizuru dumped him for his behavior towards Mami, and they get into a fight. Chizuru and Kazuya leave, and Chizuru tells him that was manly, and that they don't know the truth, thus they acted like that. Kazuya informs her that his grandma is being discharged next week, so he will stop hiring her. Chizuru heads back to the store to take her clothes, but as she sees her friends outside, she can't go in and change. Yoshiaki then shows up and wishes to speak with her. Kazuya sees them and thinks that Yoshiaki may try to confess to her or something, and hides to eavesdrop on them. Yoshiaki tells Chizuru that he has known Kazuya since they were in kindergarten. He agrees that he is an idiot, but tells her a story of how optimistic he is and how he didn't give up on a flower at school. In the end, Yoshiaki gives Chizuru 2 ferry tickets and asks Chizuru to give Kazuya another chance. A dog then reveals Kazuya, and they realize he was listening. Yoshiaki then leaves, and Chizuru states that she can't decline after hearing Yoshiaki, so she agrees to go on the ferry and then tells them that they talked and decided to break up. On the ferry, Chizuru starts to not feel well, but as they speak, Kazuya decides to later ask Mami out. He tells Chizuru that he won't be renting her and promises to not talk to her at the college. Mami then calls him on the phone and he goes outside to talk. She wants to meet up with Kazuya and tells him that she is waiting for him in the hotel pool. Kazuya agrees to meet her, but explains he will need at least 15 mins to come. Meanwhile, Chizuru is feeling quite unwell and goes outside too. As the ferry shakes, she ends up falling overboard in the water. Kazuya hears a girl with Chizuru's description fall in the water, and he drops his phone and immediately jumps in the water. Kazuya manages to reach Chizuru underwater. She later wakes up on the beach and remembers that she fell. As she turns, she sees unconscious Kazuya remembering that he came for her. Chizuru starts giving CPR, and in the end gives him mouth-to-mouth, and Kazuya finally awakens. The Coast Guard finds them and gives them a scolding, and he ends up spending the night at the local hospital and misses his meeting with Mami. After being discharged, Kazuya goes home and decides to masturbate to Mami's pictures, but he can't stop thinking of Chizuru. That makes him realize he had already fallen for her. Nagomi decides to go to a hot spring resort to celebrate her discharge and takes Kazuya with her. At the resort, she reveals that Sayuri, Chizuru's grandma, is with her and forces Kazuya to go to a different room as she wants to share a room with Sayuri. Kazuya heads into his room, only to find Chizuru being there. She is surprised Kazuya is there, but quickly realizes this was the plan their grandmas made. Chizuru then leads Kazuya to their grandmas, but Nagomi and Sayuri refuse to change rooms, stating they ordered food already and it would be too much trouble to change now. Back at their room, Chizuru decides to enjoy the stay and heads to the baths, where she meets Nagomi. Nagomi decides to help her wash and explains that her husband died on this date, but being here with Chizuru, it becomes a special date for her. Chizuru wonders what Nagomi will think if she learns she isn't what she imagined. However, Nagomi explains that everyone lies a bit, and she won't stop loving her even if she is an alien. Returning to her room, Chizuru continues to enjoy her time there, and they drink and eat with Kazuya. Before going to sleep, Kazuya prepares to sleep in the room to the bathroom, but Chizuru tells him it's okay to stay. Chizuru tells Kazuya to sleep in the same room, and he starts imagining things, for which she hits him as she starts to feel his lust. At night, he asks her if he can continue renting her and not to tell their grandmas they broke up. Kazuya feels that he is growing while she is by his side, and Chizuru agrees. Kazuya and Chizuru announce in front of Kazuya's friends that they will continue being a couple. Later they meet Shun, who tells Kazuya that he has a girlfriend too and wants them to go on a double date. Kazuya tries to prevent it, but Shun has already made up his mind already. Going home, Kazuya bumps into a girl and sees her pants, for which she calls him perv. On the double date, Shun takes them to a free climbing place and introduces his girlfriend Ruka Sarashina. Kazuya recognizes her as the girl he bumped into and can't believe Shun got such a beautiful girl. Kazuya and Ruka are pretty bad at climbing. However, Chizuru is quite good. Looking at the poses Chizuru does while climbing, Kazuya realizes Shun's idea and how sexual it is, and starts to enjoy the view. After a while, Ruka calls Chizuru and asks her if she is a rental girlfriend. Subscribe for more anime recaps just like this.